Greetings, citizens. Hey you beautiful, curious human being you. Welcome to my channel and welcome to today's Drunk Mysteries episode. I'm so happy we could meet like this. I'm so happy that somehow in all of this craziness today, you and I were able to find each other on this crazy little planet that we call home. My name is Brittany, or Bratterstein, whichever you prefer, and today we're going to be discussing the mystery of the Mothman. But before we get started, if you have not yet had the pleasure, please make sure to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing that bell because I put out a new video every single week, sometimes more than one, like this week, and I would love to hang out with you. Yes, you, specifically you, but I can only do that if you join the Brat Pack and become one of us. One of us. One of us. One of us. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you want. They're both Bratterstein, but no pressure. Now, as I said 5 seconds ago, 10 seconds ago, today's Drunk Mysteries episode is going to be on the Mothman. Fighter of the night man. Champion of the sun. In 1966, in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the newspapers in the area started posting about a bunch of isolated sightings of a red-eyed, winged creature flying around the skies that the media then dubbed the Mothman. The Mothman was described as a creature about 7 to 10 feet tall with a wingspan of 10 to 15 feet that weighed about 200 pounds. So he was a big boy. Or a girl, we don't know. It had dark gray or brown fur or feathers, depending on who you talk to, and of course the infamous glowing red eyes. The Mothman could fly clearly due to its giant wings, and apparently it could pick up speeds of just like, we don't even know, we have no idea how fast it could go, but he was moving, he was fast as fuck, boy. Now, approximately 6 decades later, those who said they had encountered the Mothman in their life are still fully convinced that he or she exists, and the, legend of the Mothman has become one of the greatest mysteries of all time. So, the Mothman. Thank you, Sasha and Honeybee, for the suggestion. Prior to you guys telling me, look into this case, I had never really heard that much about this creepster, but once I started looking into it and I got into all the details, I was like, this is incredibly interesting. And with that said, today I'm going to be telling you guys all of the details of the Mothman case. And whilst I do, I'm going to have me a little drink here, see, because hence the drunk in the Drunk Mysteries comes into play. Today, we're doing a little Baileys and a little coffee because I've realized that I am a bit of a brunch bitch alcohol drinker. I don't know when it happened, but I want Baileys and coffee and mimosas all the time. That's what I want. Now, if this type of video doesn't really seem like your thing, thank you so much for hanging out this long. I hope you find somebody who's more your speed, but if you're kind of on the fence, I don't know how I feel, maybe stick around. You might be surprised to find that I'm kind of a fun time, baby. Now, with all of that said, let's get into the mystery of the Mothman. Let's first discuss the encounters that began in 1966. Though the majority of the sightings in this case, the bulk of them, if you will, of the Mothman sightings were in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the very first confirmed sighting of the Mothman actually wasn't in Point Pleasant. Why is that so difficult for my mouth? It was actually 50 miles away in Clendenin, West Virginia. On November 12, 1966, Kenneth Duncan, along with 5 other men, Robert, Mitch, William, Andrew, and Emil, yes, they were all digging a grave in a cemetery at night, as one does. This is when Kenneth casually looks up to the sky and he sees a human-like creature flying amongst the tree line. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Mothman. The creature was just flying around the woods, minding its own business, when all of a sudden it flew directly over the group's head and then disappeared into the distance. Kenneth was actually the only one of the group to see this creature, so he kind of was like, what the fuck just happened? And nobody really believed him, and he was going to put it out of his mind completely, and that is until about a week later, just 50 miles away in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the newspapers were flush with sightings of the creature that he had just seen. That same month, November of 1966, in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a string of Mothman sightings was just about to occur. The sightings started with a woman named Linda Scarberry, her husband Roger, and her friend Mary and Steve. I knew their names. Well, they were all just driving down an old country road at night in West Virginia when all of a sudden they encountered a large creature with glowing red eyes. Apparently this creature was just kind of standing there, right? He was posted up right in front of an old abandoned TNT building when their headlights flashed upon him. So they sit there for a second, kind of just watching the creature, watching like the way it walked, kind of like a person, kind of not like a person. They're like, that looks like a man, but like not a man. And after looking at it a while and getting a pretty good look at it, they were like, not a big fan of what I'm seeing here. We should probably get out. We should probably go and just go. So they start driving away. And this is when the creature starts chasing their car. No, thank you. So they're going and they're going super fast. They said they made up to around 100 miles per hour. They're just going, trying to get away from this creature, and they could still hear the sound of the creature's wings flapping against the hood of their car, right? And they said that they noted that it didn't seem difficult for the creature to keep up. They weren't like, he wasn't like aggressively flapping, he was just casually flapping, kind of gliding through the wind, unfazed by these very high speeds. They did say, though, that occasionally he would let out this sort of scream, and it wasn't like a deep, aggressive, like, roar. They said it was very high-pitched and scratchy sounding, like if you were to play a record on a record player at a high speed. So that's, I don't even know what to make of that. That's weird. Maybe that's, I mean, like a bird, right? That's kind of bird-esque sounding. Don't know. Either way, the Mothman keeps chasing after them, really going. That is until they make it to a main road where they're almost into the city, and then the creature just like, deuces, and flies away. So the group's like, what the fuck do we do with this information? We were just chased by a giant bird/human. What do we do? Is this like police worthy? And they go back and forth and they try to decide if they should go to the police, and they're like, they're not gonna take us seriously. Who would take us seriously? But they do end up deciding that they are gonna go to the police. When they do, they're like, listen, this is what happened. I was just driving. Birdman chased me, and now I'm telling you. And they were like, yeah, totally, for sure. It sounds like bullshit. I don't know if I believe that. But eventually the cops did take them seriously enough to at least drive out to the area to check out where they had been. And while they were there, the officer said they felt a general sense of unease and like they were being watched, and that their police radios started to malfunction. Okay, and so the next day, a press conference was released because they took this super duper seriously. And from that day on, many, many sightings of the Mothman were reported. I am now going to give you some examples of some of those reportings that came in. Next, 13-year-old Faye DeWitt Laporte. Laporte? Anyway, Faye and her siblings, they decided one night, let's go around outside. Let's go drive around and try to find this infamous Mothman that's all over the newspapers, right? So they get in the car, they head out, her older brother's driving, and they drive to the area near the TNT building where most of the Mothman sightings had occurred. And almost immediately upon entering that area, the Mothman lived up to their expectations and appeared flying next to their car. Faye looked out the window and she saw the creature's giant red glowing eyes, so she knew, like, for sure this was him. This is what he's known for, these giant red eyes. So they're driving, trying to escape the creature, right? And they can't. So her brother was like, you know what, I'm gonna challenge this beast because, you know, bravery, men. So he turned the car sideways in the middle of the road to kind of block the road because, you know, the rules of the road do apply to the Mothman. And when he does that and he kind of stops the car, the Mothman's like, oh, really, you want to square up? So the Mothman jumps on the roof of the car and just starts jumping on it, right? Before jumping onto the roof of a nearby building. So Faye's brother, apparently, brave as hell, balls of steel, gets out of the car and he's like, you know what, take that. And he starts throwing rocks at the Mothman. The Mothman looks at him like, I'm sorry, but who do you think you are? And the Mothman jumps off the roof and lands on the ground like directly beside her brother. So he freaks out, he gets back in the car, and they take off into the night. And that's the last time that they ever saw the Mothman. But they said they knew it was him because they were real close to him, right? They had a long interaction with him. So they saw him pretty well and are convinced that he is real. So next we come to Marcela Bennett, who apparently had the closest confirmed accounting. What? Next we come to Marcela Bennett, who had the closest confirmed encounter, like closest proximity encounter with the Mothman. So apparently on this night, Marcela, along with her little tiny baby daughter, her brother, and her sister-in-law, they all drive over to a family member's house who lived near the TNT area to just like have some dinner, have some drinks, hang out, be real casual, just have a nice night with your family. Maxing and relaxing, chilling, not killing. So as the evening concluded, as they said their goodbyes, made plans for later, like, oh, you want to get together Wednesday? Oh, you're in Dallas on Wednesday? Well, let's not see each other for 8 months and it doesn't matter at all. Anyway, they did the later, and the four go to leave. And this is when Marcela walks out first with her little baby headed towards the car. Her brother's about to follow behind her when he stops dead in his tracks, puts his arm out, stops his wife, and he looks up and he sees glowing red lights circling the sky above their car. This is when Marcela looks at her brother and then follows his gaze to right down beside her next to the car, and she looks up and she sees the Mothman. She describes him as being about 6 feet tall, just a dark figure with feathers on his body, with his shoulders like hunched up, no head, no neck, and just glowing red eyes where a head should be. That's horrible. Can you imagine? You look over and you're like, oh, what the is that? No. This is when her brother starts yelling at her to like run, you know, get out, like let's go. And I picture this like a horror movie, like you can like see him, like it's all in slow-mo. He's not making any noise at all, but he's like, and she's like frozen in fear, can't move. And that's until Mothman takes a step towards her and she's like, oh shit, that broke her out of her like frozen fear because she's got her little baby. And she takes off running towards the house, falling on the ground multiple times because, again, this is a movie. And eventually she does make it inside away from the Mothman. Once she was inside, the Mothman was not done. He really liked Marcela, so he started banging on the door and peering in through the window. So Marcela's brother's like, F this, I'm gonna call the police. He calls the police, but by the time the police get there, the Mothman has disappeared into the night like he likes to do. Now, Marcela never did see the Mothman again after this, but she said after this experience, she was sort of always left with a sort of psychic energy about her where she could kind of like see things before they happen, see the Mothman like from his point of view, and always experienced paranoia, like she was being watched, and she always felt like he was around. In another instance of a Mothman sighting, a man was sitting in his house. He was watching TV, petting his adorable little dog, when all of a sudden he heard a high-pitched scream that coincided with his TV screen going pitch black and his dog howling out of nowhere. Okay, so he's like, what's that? I'm gonna go figure it out. So he goes outside to investigate the sound, and this is when his dog runs out with him. You know, the door opens, dog runs beneath your feet, runs out, and the dog runs towards his barn where there's a pair of red lights that's hovering around his barn. So his dog goes out, circles the barn where he's out of view of his owner's eyesight, and his owner goes after him, sees his dog's footprints lead in a circle, but his dog is gone, nowhere to be found, and never seen again. Which is a really sad story for me. Poor Buppy, I hope he's okay. There were many other alleged sightings of the Mothman over the period of time that he was active in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, but I'm not going to get into every one of them because this video I could do like a whole channel on just like a different encounter with the Mothman, and that's not what this channel is. We're doing a condensed version here. But just as quickly as the Mothman sightings occurred, they ended just as swiftly. I already said that. They stopped on December 15th, 1967, so almost a year exactly to the day that they began. The day that it all seemed to end, the very last sighting of the Mothman in the Point Pleasant area, was a day that a pretty serious tragedy occurred in that area. The Silver Bridge over the Ohio River ended up collapsing, and this killed 46 people. And though this seems like a really weird thing for me to include in this video, it is going to tie in later when we get to the theories, and this was the very last day that the Mothman was ever sighted in that area during that time. There have also been other sightings of Mothman scattered here and there all over the world ever since that one very active year in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the 60s. And I'm going to talk about a couple of those sightings that are in other areas of the world. In September of 2006 in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is about an 18-hour drive from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a man and his son were driving along in a car when all of a sudden they realized they were being chased by a giant winged creature. The eyewitness, the man in the car, said that the creature must have had at least a 14-foot wingspan because as he stretched out his wings, he covered up the entirety of the road. So the car's driving, trying to get away from this creature, doing some evasive maneuvers, trying to like get his, escape the creature that's following them, but they are unsuccessful. And this is when whatever this creature was started to attack their car, like on the hood of the car, which made it so the witnesses could get a very good look at what was attacking them. The man said that the creature had a white mouth with giant red eyes and a human body, like a human type body, that had 2 giant wings attached to it. He said that the creature did have hair, but more like hair on a human and not fur on an animal. And it was just kind of on there the way you would see like a hairy dude with like a hairy chest, right? And that he looked like a cross between a human being and a bat. not. So this creature had been attacking their car, and just as quickly as he had made the decision to attack the car, he decided like, okay, I'm done. This was fun, but I'm out. And he shot into the sky, letting out a shriek. And this shriek, something about the way that it sounded, made the man and his son immediately sick. They pulled over the car and his son vomited. So after this, they went home. They decided they wanted to go back out and see if they could find anything, like do a little investigation themselves. So they go back out to the area where they had seen the creature, and they said this is when they found, and I'm so sorry for people who love animals like me, they found a dead deer, and it looked like the deer had been filleted, which is like the skin being like ripped off the deer. So not cool, Mothman. Not cool. In another sighting in August of 2009 in Sacramento, California. So I was gonna say my neck of the woods, but that's about a 9-hour drive from where I am, or maybe it's a 5-hour drive. I'm in Los Angeles. Northern California, a man who was a photographer named Lamont Greer was taking some photos of a local bridge when he saw what he believes to have been the Mothman. So he says he's there taking his pictures when all of a sudden he got this overwhelming feeling of being watched. And that's when he kind of like took the camera away from his face and started to look around, and he looked at the top of the bridge, tippy top of the bridge, and this is when he saw a creature standing on the top of the bridge. And at first he couldn't really tell what he was seeing. He thought he was tripping, so he starts staring at it, lets his eyes focus, and when they do focus, he's like, what the fuck? Because he saw the creature expand its wings, and he saw just the pure size of the creature at the top of this bridge, right? So he goes to lift his camera to take a photo, and as he does, the Mothman's like, oh no you do not, and he jumps down and he starts soaring. The creature is way too fast for him to get a photo. It went down and flew right over his head and then disappeared into the night. And the man said of this, and I quote, "It wasn't a man, it wasn't a bird. It was something absolutely strange and something unique. I mean, if it wanted to come down and really hurt someone and attack, it absolutely, definitely could cause some damage." From the various descriptions eyewitnesses gave of the Mothman creature, a forensic artist actually drew up a composite sketch of what the Mothman would look like, and that's just so official. Like, they brought in a forensic artist, okay? And I just find that crazy. But I'm gonna put the photos on the screen for you here. Now tell me, does that one not look like Spider-Man? Like if Spider-Man was an angel, like Angel Spider-Man. Okay, I will say that the composite sketches look pretty similar. I will say that, but like the story's also been going around for many, many, many years. So, I mean, how many different ways are you gonna draw like a bat, bird, man with red eyes? I watched an episode done on the Mothman on the History Channel's Monster Quest series, and basically what they do in this series is they take a scientific look at reported sightings of cryptozoological creatures and paranormal entities found around the world. I had to read that. I could not remember that one. It was definitely an interesting watch. I would say to watch it. You can find it on YouTube. But basically what they did is they interviewed a bunch of different people who said that they actually saw the Mothman. So you get to see these firsthand interviews, which I enjoyed. It helped me with my research, obviously. Seeing it from, getting to hear the words from the mouths of the people who experience the things is always a valuable thing when you're looking into anything. Anyways, in the episode Anyways, in this episode, they also did a bunch of tests to sort of like discredit the eyewitness testimonies, because eyewitness testimonies are found to be notoriously inaccurate. Like, your brain is not, like, the way you remember things, it's not like taking a photo, right? So oftentimes the way you remember things are not the way that they actually were, particularly where details and sizing is involved. So from doing these tests, they did come up with a bunch of theories, but no definitive answers. Speaking of the theories, let's get into the theories. That's the fun part, right? So the first theory is that what people are seeing that they think is the Mothman is actually an owl. Now, if you put an owl next to a photo of the Mothman, they do look pretty similar, except for like the Jesus on the cross abs that the Mothman is always drawn with. An owl's got more of a soft body. Also, the legs, because whenever you see the Mothman drawn up, he's got like human legs. And have you ever seen owl's legs? Look at this picture. They are the weirdest things in the entire world. Another big inconsistency with this theory is the size, because the Mothman is described as being the size of a whole-ass grown man, not a cute, cuddly little, or, well, I guess it would be more of like a creepy-ass, fourth-kind-ass owl. But it's also theorized, and they did this in the Monster Quest History Channel episode, that people are getting the size confused because they're seeing him from a distance, so they don't know how big the Mothman creature really was. So, what do you think about that? Another theory that involves birds is that the Mothman is actually a sandhill crane, because a sandhill crane stands at about 5 feet tall and has a 7-foot wingspan and also has red markings around their eyes. But people who have seen the Mothman look at a crane and they're like, Nah, dog, that's not it. One, Mothman is first off described as a man, and a crane looks very different from a man. And also, Mothman is described as having no neck, and a crane's got like a long ass neck, and sometimes he doesn't even have a head. So, I mean, maybe if you were looking at a crane coming straight on you, where like their head and their neck were in perfect alignment, it could look like he had no neck or no head. But I mean, I feel like you would know the difference between like a man bat and a crane. Okay. There's another theory that the Mothman could actually be a product of contamination and mutation. Let me explain. Mothman is an X-Men. No, really. So, the place in Point Pleasant where the Mothman sightings first started, that place out in the woods, which is already super creepy. Well, this is an area that during World War II was used to make explosives. Stay with me here. So, once the war was over, the place was pretty much abandoned, and it has since become an overgrown wildlife preserve that is known as the TNT area to locals. So the theory is that some of these chemicals that were used to make these explosives have started to kind of leak out into the surrounding area. Maybe it made its way into the drinking water and the little animals drink it up, or maybe it got sucked into the ground and got sucked into the little animals' feet, right? And that the Mothman is actually a mutated version of either a bat or a bird, which means the Mothman is an X-Men, okay? That's the theory. It's a fun one. I don't know if it's a real one, but it's definitely a fun one. So the next theory is a pretty interesting one. It is thought that because Mothman and the sightings of Mothman preceded a horrible event like the bridge collapse, the Silver Bridge collapse that killed all those people, that the Mothman is actually an otherworldly creature who either brings chaos with him or is there to warn you of impending doom. And that's an interesting theory, like coming to warn you of impending doom, because the way that Mothman is described, I wouldn't say that he has like a very, I come in peace vibe to him. So maybe not that. But again, I shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Maybe he is just a good ass dude coming to be like, hey, I've seen it. I'm from the future. Something bad's gonna happen. Watch out. But I don't speak English. I only shriek like a bird, so I don't know what to say. But people still think that he was there to either warn or cause the bridge collapse. Even though the cause of the bridge collapse was determined to be a weakening of a link in the suspension cable that like holds it up, people still went wild with it and had all of their theories. And some people even said that they saw the Mothman flying around the bridge right before it did collapse. People have also reported seeing large winged creatures preceding other very serious events in history all over the world. For example, people said that they saw large winged creatures flying around the Twin Towers before 9/11. Also before the collapse of the collapse of one of Minnesota's busiest bridges in 2007. And people said that they saw large winged creatures flying around Mexico right before the swine flu outbreak in 2009. And another theory is that Mothman is an angel? Huh. An alien or an intradimensional being that can go from dimension to dimension, from planet to planet. And this theory is strengthened by the fact that there are electronical failures whenever he is around. So what is he? What is the Mothman? Well, for the people of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, he's become sort of an urban legend and a tourist attraction. They really lean into this Mothman thing. Mothman is such a prevalent figure in the history and the culture of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, that they actually have a giant ass metal statue of him erected right in the middle of town for everyone to see. He's just sitting there, chilling, not killing, for all eyes to see. They also have yearly Mothman festivals, which sounds so much fun. I would love to go to that. It happens in every September. And they're very like Las Vegas about it. Or like Beaver. Okay, so you know how you can go into any store in like Las Vegas or in Beaver and you can get like little souvenirs that say like Viva Las Vegas or I love Beaver, those types of things. I hope you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been to those places, you're like, I'm sorry, what? But it's a fun little thing that happens at really touristy places. Well, in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, it's Mothman. You can get Mothman merch everywhere. And it's interesting that they do this because some people did say that after the Mothman sightings first started happening there, some men in black showed up and told them like, keep it on the down low, keep quiet about this, or you know what'll happen. But they still talk about it and lean into it pretty hard. So who knows? Who knows there? Did any of this actually happen? Or is this just part of the lore and appeal of the area? All of these mysterious and unexplained sightings combined with the fact that still no one has been able to prove or debunk his existence is exactly why Mothman remains such a mystery to this day. Mothman. Ah. But anyways, guys, that completes this video. Did you like it? Are you enjoying the new series? Please let me know. And the Mothman. Oh my gosh, man, what is he? Here's the thing. I don't look it up. I mean, these people, at least some of them, must have seen something, right? I mean, I think I at least believed that. But what was it? I feel like I lean towards an alien or like a creature from another dimension that we just can't see. Maybe. But probably an alien. Or shit, maybe it's a big hoax. I don't know. What do you think? Anyways, I had fun today. I thought this was a fun video to film. Plus, I'm a little day drunk. This was delicious. And now I gotta edit this bitch. Let me know what you think though, because as I said before, you know, I have a whole idea of how I want this series to go and like a schedule plan, but it's all gonna be very dependent on whether or not you're receptive. So let me know down below. And of course, make sure to suggest any mysteries that you want to see me cover because I plan to do this if you like it. Anyways, if you haven't joined the Brat Pack yet, please make sure to do so because it's a really good time over here and I would love to hang out with you. Yes, you specifically, you. And of course, check the description box if you want to get all of my social media handles so we can hang out. Make sure to tune in Monday for a new morbid makeup video where I do a full face of makeup and tell you a true crime story. It's a really fun time over there, for a lack of a better word. I think you might enjoy it. If you enjoyed this, I think you'd enjoy that. People seem to like it. But anyways, that's it. That's the whole thing. Thank you for hanging out. This is Tight. You're tight. Please stay creepy and stay curious. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.